All right, it is time for a book haul, otherwise known as pickups, otherwise previously known as. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you the books that I bought this summer or that I picked up this summer. A lot of these are freebies that I picked up or promotional ones that I picked up, but there are ones that I purchased as well. This entire book haul is digital and it is for the entire summer, so it is quite a lot of books. I don't know why I haven't done a book haul since I've come back to the channel, but I hadn't. So when I went and looked back and started to put the list together, it was rather long. It was rather long. So let's get this party started. So first up, and then these are slightly by genre, kind of? A little bit. So first up we have some nonfiction, Man and His Symbols, edited and with an introduction by Carl Jung. It says profusely illustrated. Profusely illustrated. I've never seen that before. So this is a nonfiction book. I think it's a nonfiction book about Jungian psychology, but it's by Jung as well as other authors. My mom was really big into Jungian psychology, but I've never read this book, but I feel like I have because I saw it so many times at her, like at her place and stuff like that. And we had many discussions about it. So I'm curious to see what it will be like to read it with having secondhand information over years and years and years. So I picked this up one day. It was on sale and I just was like, yes. Yes. So I picked it up. I have no idea when I'm going to get to reading it, but I am glad that I bought it. I am curious about it. I like nonfiction, and but it will be interesting to see my memory versus reading it from the source-ish. From the source. So that's the first one, Man and His Symbols. Next up, we have How to Be an Antiracist by Ibram X. Kendi. This is a very popular book recently, and a very good book. I read this in June, and it was really, really good at explaining what anti-racism is and how it applies to different areas of life and perceptions. This is definitely one that I want to reread because I feel like there was only so much I could absorb on the first pass, and it's really important work, and there is important work to be done in this arena, so it's definitely well worth reading, and I'm glad that I picked it up. So that, and I've talked about it in many of my Friday Reads videos. And it was really good. I highly recommend it. Next up we have The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is a fantasy novel. It is the first in a series. I think the series is called The Burning. Evan Winter is a Canadian author. I'm really curious to check this one out. I haven't been reading tons of fantasy recently, mostly more urban fantasy, but this is fantasy, dragons. Dragons. That's always a win. And so I'm really curious to check this one out. I know a fair amount of people have read this one recently. So I will too soon, sometime. I'm not sure when. I actually have most of these books I have no idea when I am going to read them. It happens especially with digital books. I'm like, I have no idea when I'm going to read it, but I'm really curious to check this one out, and so sometime I will. Next up we have The Keeper of Lost Causes, and this is by Jussi Adler-Olsen. I hope it's Jussi. That's what I'm not entirely sure. So this is the first in the Department Q novels. This was adapted to TV movies, I think. I watched the first three. They're like an hour and a half long. That's why I'm saying TV movies. I don't know if it was considered a TV series or a mini-series or a set of movies. And these are mystery thrillers. It follows the protagonist I can't remember what happened, but he's a bit down on his luck, and he ends up being assigned to cold cases and then getting a partner that he isn't super fond of, and then they work together to solve or work on cold cases. I'm actually a little surprised that I picked this up, one, because I have watched the three TV movies, and also because the story of this one is brutal. If the film or TV version is similar, and I think it is, it's the content is really challenging. I don't read a lot of mysteries or thrillers, so I'm not the best, to take on that as a genre. But one of the things that I really liked about this, and one of the reasons I do read works after seeing them in film or television, is because I like the characters. And I actually really did like the characters, especially the partner character. And I'm curious as to their dynamic as partners, as well as like more about them as individuals. And I'm a little more interested in that over the mystery, which is a bit weird considering it's like a mystery. But I know, I like, depending on how close the version I saw is to the film, I sort of know where it's going. But it's probably been at least a year, maybe two, since I've seen it. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so I am curious to check this one out, first in a series. And yeah, so that's that one. Where are we going now? Okay, Con Job. Okay, so this is another series. This one's actually by my brother, Jason Ridler. And I read Deathmatch was the first in the series. It's the Spar Battersea series. And it follows Spar, who is he writes for a paper, works for a bookstore, doesn't have the best luck, and needs to solve mysteries for at least the first one he was working on trying to, it's more of a thriller than a mystery. And there's a lot of fighting in it, and there's a lot of wrestling in it, because his friend is a wrestler. In the first one, his friend's a wrestler, and he needs to find out what happened. There's some mysterious stuff that happened around his friend. So I don't know what happens in this one. I know it continues with Spar as a character, and I am curious to check it out. I'm sure there's going to be more fighting, I imagine. It looks like people lined up. Yeah, I think so. So most of my brother's books have fighting of some sort in it. So I'm looking forward to continuing the series and checking that out. Next up, I have I Am Not Your Final Girl. This is by Claire C. Holland. This one was quite random in terms of my finding it. The author, I think, commented on or replied to something that someone I follow on Twitter either posted or retweeted. Like, honestly, like that, that is how I came across it. And then I found the author and then looked at their Twitter page and found that they wrote this book of poems that is all based on horror films. And it was like, that is the coolest idea. So I'm looking forward to checking this out. It's, I think probably what I do when I'll read it is I will only read the poems where I have seen the films, because I am such an anti-spoiler person, especially for films. So that is probably the approach that I will take. It might end up being a good pick for October. And also in the pro category, though, I actually I've seen a lot of horror movies, like especially of any of the classic horror movies and the older horror movies. There's a couple that I won't watch, but generally speaking, I have seen a lot of them. I think like there's like 3 that I keep just not having access to, or they just don't make it that list for that year, for that Halloween. But generally speaking, I've seen a lot of the classics. So I'm really looking forward to checking this out. Yeah, poetry based on horror movies. Like, it wasn't really much thinking involved. It was just pretty much a yes. Next up, we have Sorcerers. Okay, so this one looks really cool. So this is by Maurice Broaddus with Otis Whitaker, with illustrations by Jim Mahfood? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. So this one came out recently. It is an illustrated novella. It's about 100 pages, and it has actually already been optioned by AMC, and that happened, I think, shortly after the publication date. All of that happened sort of in quick succession, like within this summer itself. And I read Buffalo Soldier by Maurice Broaddus earlier this year and enjoyed it. And so this one has a sort of like urban fantasy feel, and a character that sort of comes of age, but but older, like not, I don't know if it's 30s or 20s. Like they're like, it's like a second coming of age, like coming into one's own, which I really, really enjoy. Like I like coming of age stories too, but as I get older, I kind of like coming into one's own stories. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this. This will probably end up being on my September TBR. And I can't wait to check it out. It looks really cool. And okay, so now on to more urban fantasy-ish stuff. So Sweep of the Blade by Ilona Andrews. This is the 4th book in the Innkeeper Chronicles, which was originally a trilogy, and then it expanded. And I think this series has just such the coolest premise. I think I've read the first 2 books. And the premise of the series, it follows a woman who is an innkeeper, but she's an innkeeper to an inn that houses supernatural and paranormal people. So, and not only that, and they're not, it's in the world, people don't know that there's supernatural paranormal exists. So, and then when people, but also in addition to that, the more people who stay at the inn and who are happy at the inn, it creates like an energy, like the inn is like a living being kind of, and they have a symbiotic relationship with the innkeeper. So if the inn does well, the inn prospers. If the inn prospers through its clients, it ends up creating a stronger, like literally stronger inn, and then the symbiotic relationship grows. It's just really cool. It's just such a cool premise. I really love Ilona Andrews. They are a husband and wife writing team, and they wrote the Kate Daniels series, and I'm working through reading all of their works. And I think with this one, with this series, I'm going to go back to the beginning. It's on my stacking the series this year, and but I think if I jump into book 3, it's been several years since I read book 2, and I enjoyed book 1 and 2 so much. I think I'm just going to go back and start at the beginning. This has been a really good year for rereading, and so I think I might just take that approach. And now I have book 4, so when I'm at that point. Because I got a 3-in-1 for the first 3 books because they had a plague sale earlier in the year, and then this went on sale at some point. So yeah, that's Sweep of the Blade. And then Faded. Oh yeah, okay, but this is by Benedict Jacka, and I've heard about this from Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures. Has talked about this series a fair amount. So this is an urban fantasy series, and if I'm remembering correctly, the protagonist, I think, works in a bookstore, and it is another world where like the urban fantasy elements or paranormal elements are not known to everyday folk. I think this one, it might have something to do with time. It feels very timey with all of this. Don't quote me on that. But I think this series might be a little more mystery per book based. But I haven't tried it yet because this is book 1. I do have an idea in mind of doing a sort of like urban fantasy exploration. So I'm keeping my eye out for books that are like that, especially books in series. And I'm curious to try this one out after hearing so much about it, and it went on sale and I bought it. Next up, okay, so now we're going into paranormal romance. This is Loki Ascending. This is the 3rd book in the Viking Warriors series by Maurice Broaddus, and this is a current day set urban fantasy / paranormal romance. It has different couples per book, so that way it is paranormal romance, but it's based on Norse mythology. And this one came out at the very, very, very end of last year, on New Year's Eve last year, and then recently it went on sale for like $1.31, and I was like, yeah. I haven't read this series for a while, so I can't remember. I think there is a bit of a thread throughout the different books, but it is much more paranormal romance in terms of it's a different couple per book, and I'm very much looking forward to checking this one out and see, because Loki, right? Troublemaker. Now let's talk about Love. This is by Claire Kahn. This is a contemporary romance with an asexual protagonist. I have already started reading this. I started it during Grinchathon, and I'm continuing to read it through the summer fling. It's very good so far. I am enjoying it. I like the writing style, and the characters are really compelling, and I am looking forward to completing it. So that's Let's Talk About Love. Then we have An Extraordinary Union by Alyssa Cole. This is a historical romance. It is a novel of the Civil War. It is the first book in a series set during the Civil War. And I read my first Alyssa Cole recently with Let It Shine, I think it was believed, which was set during the Civil Rights Movement. So I think I'm actually going to try one of her contemporary books and then maybe come back to An Extraordinary Union. I've heard only good things about this one. And then some historical romances. I picked up 2 by Michelle Willingham, The Highlander and the Governess, and The Highlander and the Wallflower. These are 2 in a series. This is book 1, and this is book 2. Book 2 came out recently, I think in August 2020. Michelle Willingham is one of the authors that I love. She is the first, she wrote the first historical Viking romance that I read, To Sin with a Viking, and since then I've been like, just working through all of her work. And so this is one of her more recent series. And so I picked, this is the new one, and you can see the difference. The Harlequins, see, this is the new style, and this is the older style that they used. So I probably, when I read these, I will read the Highlander and the Governess first. These are obviously historical romances, but I think I'm in the middle of several of her series, and I haven't quite settled exactly which one I want to work on first, but I do want to read them all. So I just decided to buy them, especially because I think I actually might have bought it on its on sale date, because I think that is helpful and supportive to authors. So I do try and do that when I can. So those are some historical romances. And then, okay, so now we're on to the freebies. So I use a particular link, which I will share down below, for the Canadian Amazon store that is like a search for free Kindle books. And when I am when I'm grumpy, actually usually I was going to say stressed, but to be honest, it's more when I'm grumpy, I tend to browse the Kindle freebies, and because it's like shopping, but there's no cost. So I find it as sort of like a stress relief, but it doesn't affect the bank account. All it affects is like, do you have enough room on your Kindle for one more book? And some data entry on my spreadsheet. So, but with this particular instance, I actually really do want a book. They're usually books that I want to read anyway, but, or books that I'm interested in reading. I don't just like click yes to everything, although I click yes a lot when it's free. But anyway, so this is, The Elements of Style by, William Strunk Jr. and E.B. White. I have already read this. I read this a couple years ago. I do like nonfiction books about grammar and punctuation and the English language. I didn't realize that I liked that, but I did. So I got super excited when I saw that this was available for free, and I tweeted it out. I always wish that the Canadian and American store always had the exact same things, and internationally, but they don't. So I always try and preface that, when I see a sale or something, or if I see something for free that's the Canada store. Sometimes they do. So I don't know if this was available for free in the American store too. But anyway, so I actually thought this is quite a good book, and I was happy to get it digitally, even though I have it physically somewhere, so stored away. So anyway, so that's the first. Then we go on to, this one is Fortune's Son by Jennifer Schouler, not sure how to pronounce the name. The Tasmanian Tales. This is an Australian set Western, and the little tagline here is "Heads you win, tails you die." So seems kind of high stakes there. So this one was just one that I found, again, through the free Kindle deals link, or free Kindle books link, and looked interesting. The Goodreads ratings were pretty good, and so I thought I would check it out. I don't read tons of Australian work, but I am always up to read more. So that is Fortune's Son. What else we have here? Okay, All Fired Up. This is a romance novel by Vivian Arend and Elle Kennedy. It's the first in the Dreammaker series. Elle Kennedy is an author that I haven't read before, but I've heard a lot about, especially recently. So when I saw that it was one of their books, I decided to pick it up. It looks like a contemporary romance, probably pretty steamy. Along the same vein, another Elle Kennedy. This is The Deal. This is the first book in the Off-Campus series, so I imagine this is a university set romance, perhaps sports, or maybe he's just not wearing a shirt. I don't know. So yeah, so this is another one to check out. And then Nalini Singh's Cherish Hard. This is the first, or this is a hard play novel, and I thought this was a sports romance, but there's nothing sort of to indicate that. He's got a shovel. I don't know what that's about. I don't know. I have read a couple of other books by Nalini Singh. I've read a couple of books in the Side Changeling series, and I've read the first book in the Guild Hunter series, but I haven't read any contemporary books by Nalini Singh, so I thought this one might be a good one to give a try. Let me know if you've read it and if you like it. And then also The Chase by another Elle Kennedy. This is the first in the Briar U, so this looks like it's another university set one. She's the one girl he shouldn't want. So it looks like, I don't know if that means enemies to lovers or what. I actually realized I don't read a lot of university set romances. I don't read a lot of contemporary romance, but now I have lots to choose from. I have lots to choose from. So yeah, so that's another L. Kennedy. Let me know out of the 3 L. Kennedys that I shared, if you have read L. Kennedy's work, which one would be a good one to start with. They're all first in series, so there's always that. And I do find on the Kindle store that first in series romances are definitely something that they do have a lot of, which makes sense because, you know, if you enjoy it, you'll buy book 2. So I'm curious to check out all of those. But yeah, as I said, let me know which one you think is a good one to start with if you have read L. Kennedy. Next up, okay, so this one actually looked quite intriguing, Beauty and the Professor. This is by Skye Warren, and this is a modern fairy tale. I think it's the first in a duet, and it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but contemporarily set. So I'm not sure, and it does say, what is it, modern fairy tale. So I don't know how much magic-y stuff or not is involved, but I thought it would be a good one to check out. I'm always curious about Beauty and the Beast retellings because it's not the beauty part that's challenging, it's the beast part that I find interesting to see how it's depicted and received, and especially the resolve. I find it's usually it's not often done well, and it can definitely be problematic, but it is something that I think is an interesting discussion. And beauty is an interesting discussion as well. Like, what is beautiful? Is it valued? Should it be valued? Is it the only thing that's valued? I always think that this is an intriguing discussion. So yeah, so Beauty and the Professor. So now we're obviously on to the romances. Okay, so this one is Her Long Walk Home by Linda Barrett, and I'm gonna be honest here with this one. I specifically bought this one or got this one for free because I needed something for the summer fling scavenger hunt with a dog on the cover. And I was looking, and I didn't have anything out of what I have. So I looked at the Kindle store and I was like, yeah, there's some doggies there. And I don't know what kind of dogs they are. They look a little spotted. I don't know, maybe greyhounds, maybe Dalmatians. I'm not sure. I don't know tons of dog information, but yeah, so. And this looks like a contemporary romance, beachy romance. So there you go. And then, okay, yeah, this one. Okay, so this is actually The Hanover Square Affair by Ashley Gardner, a Captain Lacey Regency mystery. Now, this one is actually, Ashley Gardner is another name for Jennifer Ashley, who writes paranormal romances, and I'm interested in the Pride Mates series. But this one is a mystery. I'm not actually sure. It kind of looks like it would be romancy because of her state of like undress and process, perhaps, which makes me think it might be mystery, but also it might be also romance, but it obviously is mystery because it is part of a mystery series. So I'm curious to check this out in terms of the writing. I don't read a lot of mysteries, but if there's romance involved, I'll give it a shot. I will read mysteries. It's one of my less read genres. And yeah, so, and also I'm curious about when authors write under different names, and romance authors do often write under different names for different genres. So yeah, and I haven't read Jennifer Ashley before in any of her different names, so I'm curious to see how this one will be. And I think it's the first in the series. Does it say? It doesn't say, but I imagine usually when it's free, it's first in series. So I'm imagining that, but I don't know that for sure. It'll be down below. So yeah, so there's The Hanover Square Affair. Looks interesting. Have you read it? Next up, what do we got next? Okay, so then we have this one, Sherry Thomas, and this is Claiming the Duchess. Now, this one is a 0.5, so it's an intro into a series. And during one of the romance live streams, I think one of the Tuesday night chats, someone mentioned in the comments that this series, the second book in this series, is their favorite. Now, unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the second book in the series, and I can't remember the who I was talking to about this, so I am sorry about that, but I did look at the series, and then when I was looking at what book 1 was, I've noticed that 0.5 was free, so I'm really curious to check it out. Looks like a historical romance. I don't know the time period, just says Claiming the Duchess. It's the Fitzhugh trilogy, 0.5. 0.5. So, and often, again, 0.5ers can often be available for free or on like as a lower price because they want to get you into the series. I actually like that. I think it's a great way to to test out if you like an author, which I think the next thing is as well. No, not yet. Okay, so Something Wicked by Emma Dean. This is the first book, and it's in the series called The University of Morgana, Academy of something that gets cut off, and Council of the Immortals. This one I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding if it's part of one series or multiple series or within a world, because it's like got lots of descriptors in terms of the title. So, but it looks like it might technically qualify maybe as dark academia, which I didn't even know was a thing, although it looks paranormal because I think there's witches involved or magic involved, something wicked, and just like everything sort of reads as like magic, you know, witches, paranormal goodness. And so I'm really curious to check it out. I don't know anything about this one, but I think it is the first in a series. A Why Choose Academy series. Yeah, that was it. A Why Choose Academy series. I couldn't figure out what that meant. Maybe I'll just have to read it and find out. Next up, so this is a collection. This is Southwest Shifters Sizzling Paranormal Romances with Werewolves, Witches, Alpha Heroes, and a Hint of Magic. So this is 5 different stories, and I think they're all either 0.5 or 1.0 and sort of like more novella length, and there's a story by Anna Kessler, Anna Lowe, J.K. Harper, and Bianca Dark. I actually really, I went through a period where I picked up tons of compilations, like free compilations on Kindle. I haven't done that in a while, but there's 2 authors in here that I've already read and enjoyed. Anna Kessler, I recently read Magnolia Mystic, which I loved, and then Anna Lowe, I've read the, Hearts of Enomi series. It's like Dragon Shifters, and I think it was set in Hawaii. I really liked it. So this one I thought I would check out. I've been reading more paranormal romances recently, and I've definitely been enjoying reading novellas. So these all were shorter in length, and that really worked for me. One thing I would say though with compilations is a lot of times they are lead into for novels, so they might be cliffhangers, but I do find that people who read them in the reviews are or even the description of the work, like the compilation itself, will indicate if they have happily ever afters or if they're complete stories, and if they're not, people often do review and say this was a cliffhanger. So if you're worried about, I'm not worried about that, but if you're concerned about that, it's pretty easy to check either in the reviews or the descriptions whether or not they're standalones or if they're more like lead into stories. For me, I think it's a great way to check out a new author, and I already enjoyed 2 of the 4 authors, and it was free, so it was an easy yes, an absolute easy yes. And I think from here in, we're looking at the Harlequins. Now, these are all books that I picked up for free on the Harlequin site. They have a section that's a deals section, and in that they have stuff that is on sale, as well as they usually have some samplers that you can get for free. And then there also right now is a promotion, and it will lead you to the link will lead you to tryharlequin.com, and from there, if you sign up for their email list, you can download 1 to 12 of their books, and there are 12 different of the imprints. So I decided to do that. I did it before, like years ago, but I think I used a different email for this one, but I think you can use the same email. I don't know. I'm not sure. But basically it's incentive. You sign up for the email list and you can get a free book from their different lines, or you can download 1 of each of them. So I'm going to go through each of them, and then I'm going to just talk a little bit about some of the technical mechanics sort of that I encountered with this, but first let's look at the books. Okay, so first we have Enemy Infiltrator by Coral Erickson, and this is part of the Intrigue line. Intrigue is sort of suspense-based romances, but it's heavier on the action and the suspense. And then there's also the romantic suspense line, which is heavier on the romance. So the romantic suspense they had was Colton 911 Cowboys Rescue by Marie Fararella, I think. I do have one of her other books, actually. It's from a different miniseries. I haven't read anything from I guess this looks like the Colton 911 miniseries. So I do tend to like the romantic suspenses a little bit more than the intrigues. Both of them often fall into the category of some kind of protector or someone's being stalked by their ex, which isn't necessarily my favorite, but I do like to read them every once in a while. And then we have a love-inspired suspense. So this is Primary Suspect by Laura Scott. The love-inspired lines are faith-based romances, so they're religious. They start off with a quote. I think they start off with a quote from the Bible. I haven't actually read any of them before, but I keep on feeling like I want to try one, and I think maybe the suspense ones are the best way to go for that. They do have, I don't know how many love-inspired lines they have now. I know they have suspense and love-inspired. They used to have another one. They used to have historical, but I don't think that they have it anymore. Some of the imprints come and go. Some of them have been around Next up, we have the Harlequin Desires. Okay, so this one is Black Tie Billionaire by Naima Simone. This is the first in a series. I heard a couple people talking about this one recently, and I definitely feel like it could fit for summer fling for big city romance. And I still get confused with the Desires being yellow at the top because it looks like the historicals. The Desire used to have like this red band of it looked like snakeskin or something like that, and so so this is taking me a while to adapt, although obviously this is not a historical. I'm curious to check this one out, and I don't read from the Desire that often. It's often like about people who have a lot of money, which isn't something that appeals to me, so but I do read them every once in a while. Also, Harlequin Presents, this is the classic line, and this is Innocent's 9-Month Scandal by Danny Collins. And so this is one of the ones that I read from less frequently. It's definitely tends to be about people who have a lot of money. It's often set in the life of luxury, and there's often pregnancy or baby scandals, which looks like this one is one of those. One of the great things, though, about the Presents is they are on the shorter side of things. They tend to be more like 180 pages, and sometimes that is exactly what I am looking for. So that's a Harlequin Presents. Then we have the special editions. This is A Man You Can Trust by Joe McNulty. I don't know anything about this one. I think this one I had a harder time finding the cover for it. I don't read a lot of special editions. These are more, I think, just regular contemporary romances. And so that is something I think I might never have read it. So that's definitely goes on the list to check out, because I do want to at some point at least read one of each of the lines. I always set that sort of like as a challenge for myself. So maybe one time I need to take it on much more intentionally, because I always think that it would be a fun thing to do, but I haven't done it yet, so maybe soon. Next up, we have Harlequin Romance, and this one is United by the Royal Baby by Teresa Bahari. This is part of the Conveniently Wed, Royally Bound series. I do read Harlequins, the romance ones, every once in a while. They do tend to be rather sweet. I don't think they're necessarily chaste level sweet, but they are just like pleasant, like they're just nice. They're very warm-hearted, so I have read a couple over the years. I think, was it Snowed In with a Stranger? I like the Snowed In ones. Snowed In Anywhere I am gonna read, but this one obviously is set somewhere warm, and has to do with a baby, so there we have that one. Then we have the medical romance ones. This one I've never read. I've never read a medical romance. This is The Surrogate's Unexpected Miracle by Allison Roberts. I don't tend to be drawn to the medical ones, but they were all free and I wanted one of each, so I just downloaded them all. So one day I'll read one. I don't tend to read a lot of baby stories, and a lot of the medical romances do tend to be baby stories. But maybe this will be the one. Who knows? Next up, we have Love Inspired, and this is An Unexpected Bond by Jill Lynn, and another baby one. And so this is, as I said before, the Love Inspired are religious or faith-based, and so I haven't read one before, so maybe this will be the one that I read. And then we have the heartwarming line, these are sweet romances. This is Support Your Local Sheriff by Melinda Curtis, part of the Harmony Valley novel. I don't think I've read a heartwarming before. I keep on wanting to. I have one that's got like a carousel or, yeah, is it a carousel? No, that's this way. What's when it's a Ferris wheel in the background that I keep on meaning to read, but I haven't read it yet. But maybe it will be this one. There's lots of plaid on here. There should be a challenge for reading romance with plaid shirts. I actually don't know. I can't think. Well, I'm sure some cowboy romances have some plaid. I'm a big fan of plaid. I can go with the plaid. What do we have next? Okay, so we have a Harlequin Historical. Oh, wow, that's hard to read. Miss Bradshaw's Bought Betrothal, Cinderella's Second Chance by Virginia Heath. That actually looks really good. I love all of the flowers in the background. And this is a historical, which is actually the line that I probably, if I went and counted, I probably read the most historicals out of all of the different Harlequin lines, and that's probably mostly due to Michelle Willingham, because she almost exclusively writes historical romance, and she writes a lot for Harlequin. So, but yeah, so this is another one to check out. I'm not sure the period, given her outfit, maybe Edwardian. I'm not sure. And then last but not least, the Dare line, Her Every Fantasy by Zara Cox. This is their most recent line. The Dare line, it is a darker line. The Blaze went out and the Dare came in. I'm still not thrilled about that because the Blazes were racy, but the Dares are all sort of more dark. The themes that they have are... And I don't mean the content, it's just the types of storylines that they follow. I like the Blazes because it was just, they were racy, but they could be about any storyline. The Dares are all about, like, more darker stuff, like more like bikers and, like, you know, or forbidden romance. And I don't know if they go so far as, actually, I wouldn't say that. I take that back. It's not necessarily forbidden romance, but it is, like, you know, maybe risque or I don't know. Anyway, so... that is it. And I haven't actually